My father radioed the Gurkha regiments for support, and Gurkhas fought with open kurtis in that battle. And that is how my father's life was saved. He was literally 3 feet away from Ghulam Rasul's when Habildar Ghulam Rasul was shot. He was 3 feet away, right? And from there he radioed help. And if Gurkhas did not come and help my father's company, I would have been an orphan long before his real death. So that is how we are intertwined in the history of our independence.
नमस्कार दोस्तों और जय हिंद। आप सभी को स्वागत है इन माय चैनल 1971 वॉर बुक सीरीज। आज हम एक थोड़ा हटके चीज के बारे में बात करने वाले हैं। लुकिंग थ्रू द प्रिज्म ऑफ द 1971 वॉर, वी हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड हाउ द इंडो-बांग्लादेश रिलेशंस आर सो क्लोजली एंड इंटीमेटली बॉन्डेड टुगेदर ड्यू टू द 1971 वॉर, और उसके साथ भारतीय फौज के सैक्रिफाइसेस, भारतीय लोगों का एक्सट्रीम सपोर्ट फॉर द बंगाली रेफ्यूजीज एंड द एक्नॉलेजमेंट्स ऑफ द इंडियन गवर्नमेंट फॉर हेल्पिंग इन द क्राइसिस ऑफ द 1971 वॉर। ये सब के बारे में बांग्लादेशीज हैव टू कम अप फॉरवर्ड एंड नो, लेकिन ये आजकल उतना ज्यादा नहीं हो रहा है। Alongside me, finding the diminishing acceptance of Bangladeshis and the Bangladeshi people regarding the contributions of the Indian Armed Forces, I have been exceptionally lucky to find numerous and countless Mukti Bahini fighters acknowledging and accepting and respecting with their hearts the contributions of the Indian Armed Forces, the Indian government and the Indian people. But this has to be brought very much to life. इसीलिए I am bringing up a former refugee. Yes, he was a refugee during the 1971 war, just a 10-year-old boy, और उनके पिता भी एक मुक्ति बाहिनी कमांडर थे in the East Pakistan Rifles, जो डिफेक्ट करके पाकिस्तानी फौज के अगेंस्ट फाइट किए थे, alongside later when the Indian Army had joined the operations. आज हम एक ऐसे रेफ्यूजी के बारे में और उनके कमेंट्स जानेंगे रिगार्डिंग द कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशंस ऑफ इंडिया, द इंडियन पीपल, द इंडियन गवर्नमेंट and the Indian Army that he has seen exceptionally during his time as a refugee in the state of Tripura during the 1971 war. For the Pakistani Army persecution in the town of Brahmanbaria, वो अपने फैमिली के साथ भारत में चले आए थे। He took shelter in the state of Tripura at Shurjomoni Nagar camp near the border and had survived the war. लेकिन unfortunately उनके elder brother who became a Mukti Bahini fighter was killed by the Pakistani forces. From this person we will know about the contributions of India as a whole in the Bangladesh Liberation War of 1971. Let's welcome Mr. Imran Chowdhury.
Welcome Mr. Imran Chowdhury to this program, and I would directly start with the questions, thinking about asking you of what I have seen, especially after the elections in Bangladesh. As you might have known that of course, after Sheikh Hasina came to power, there has been a lot of what I can say anti-Indian sentiments rising in Bangladesh, talking about boycotting India. I hope that most of the people know in Bangladesh that what India and the Indian Army did for them and their liberation during the Bangladesh Liberation War. And as you, being a refugee yourself, who had to come to India to survive, of course, with your father and your elder brother taking part in the liberation war as Mukti Bahini leaders. I think your father was a very renowned Mukti Bahini leader in Sector 4, and your elder brother was also a guerrilla fighter, I suppose, sir, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
Well,
so
my father was the first company commander of East Pakistan Rifles, 3 Wing East Pakistan, which is a battalion and he was the company commander of Bravo Company, and he was sent to Shamshernagar Airport for internal security duty. And from there, my father, with his company, he is the first commander of a body of troops to revolt against Pakistan Army, and he did that on the 27th of March, 1971.
So you and your family do know and have seen, of course, how India has helped Bangladesh. So I would like to know a bit about what I can say that what do you think about these kind of rising anti-Indian sentiments in Bangladesh, which actually needed to be brought under control, especially because I think Bangladesh as a nation should at least be grateful for what India and the Indian Army has done for them in 1971. So I would like to know your comments and thoughts about this.
Well, uh, actually, to be honest with you, 1971, looking through the prism of 1971 and the India Bangladesh relation, I think these people who are now working or creating a sentiment, a public sentiment amongst the public about anti Indiaism, they have no knowledge of Bangladesh Liberation War. Either they have never seen what the war was, how ferocious the war was, how painful the time was, and what sacrifices our people, our brothers, our mothers, our sisters, the country as a whole, and our men had to endure in order to achieve an independent Bangladesh. Now, this would not have been possible, would not simply have been possible had India not helped us. This is an universal truth. And if anybody is not ready to accept that fact, that means he is either ignorant or he has been motivated by some group or some organization, some political party, or some foreign influence that he is literally parroting their rhetoric. Otherwise, anybody who has seen Bangladesh Liberation War, like me, I was an 11-year-old refugee in India, and I have seen the whole war in front of my eyes unfolding, and that is how I feel that we owe a great deal of reparation, a moral reparation to the people of India, to the government of India, and to the armed forces of India. I mean, without their help, without their blood, without their sacrifices, we couldn't have achieved what we have achieved in 9 months of war. I mean, just to give you an example, if the war continued another 9 to 20, another 9 months or couple of 2 years, then it would have been impossible for India to cope with the pressure of refugees. The flood of refugees that poured in. We lived 3.5 miles away from the India-Pakistan border in 1971 in Agartala. There's a special camp was built called Shurjomoni Nagar camp, which is literally 3.5 kilometers from Agartala city. We saw refugees were pouring in as late as 14th and 15th of December. So that was the magnitude of the suffering of the people of Bangladesh, irrespective of religion. It is not Hindus, it is not Muslim, it is all Bengalis. So that would have been a catastrophe because, as it is, bear in mind, India was not the most richest country in the world in 1971. India had poverty at the time.
Yep.
India didn't have infrastructure.
Right.
So the amount of people who were pouring in Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura, and West Bengal, these four states, it would have been impossible for India to feed us, to house us, give us shelter, medicine, and the rest. So it is really, really painful for me. I mean, today I'm sitting here, I'm talking to you, it's because India gave us the shelter. Had India not given us the shelter, if we did not have anywhere else to go but to India, it would have been very difficult for us to live inside East Pakistan because the network was very strong. The fifth columnists were very strong. For us, a family living in a village, we were like a sore thumb. People obviously would recognize that we don't come from this village people. We are different. Outlook, dress, talking, language, everything was different. So it would have been absolutely, we would have been absolutely a conspicuous target for the invading Pakistan army. And I tell you one thing, the whole of the Brahmanbaria corridor, the whole Brahmanbaria district has seen, I mean, today's Brahmanbaria has seen the highest number of battles that took place
Right.
from Akhaura to
Akhaura,
Shaldamon.
Shandam.
Okay,
Right.
and that corridor crossing that CNB road. If you read the books of Bangladesh Liberation War, everywhere people has written about Brahmanbaria to Kumilla or Sylhet to Kumilla highway, which used to be the highway, we used to call it CNB road. And to cross that CNB road was mission impossible. Every day there were people who were shot down, people who were killed, men were taken for slave laborers, women were taken away for ulterior activities carried out by Pakistanis. So that corridor has helped save a lot of life to go to India. At the same time, bear in mind that in Brahmanbaria district, opposite Brahmanbaria, there were two sectors of Mukti Bahinis, Sector 2 and Sector 3, as well as K Force and S Force. These were the main hubs of Mukti Bahini. These are the main thrust of the freedom fighters, and they were both situated in one subdivision of the country, from Brahmanbaria and from Akhaura to Meghalaya. Sorry, what do you call that? Fourth sector head, Melagor
Melagor.
and Melagor, and from S
S
force
force.
and
S force was at Teliapada, but
it's not Teliapara, it's Mukundupur and Horashpur and Shingarbil and all that area. It was spread across, but they were all pouring in to send the freedom fighters, the guerrillas, to reach up to Dhaka, the Dhaka Bowl. So this was the main hub now, and as well as this was also the main exfiltration of the Bengali refugees pouring into India. So if someone now tells us that India did not help us, we would have been independent in the next 1 year, they live in a fool's paradise. They have no knowledge of what happened in 1971 in order for us to have this country, independent country called Bangladesh today. Secondly, see, the problem that we had in 1971 is the urban population of East Pakistan. Mm, The, the worst thing that happened in East Pakistan in 1971, within a month, within a month from the 25th of March, by the 25th of April, Pakistan Army's plan was so brilliant in or so to the point that their army has reached almost all the subdivisions,
Right.
right? And more or less almost all the communication hubs, junctions, and to the Thana levels. So imagine a 55,126 square mile area of Bangladesh, leave the coastal and the hills. So they're about 45 to 44,000 square miles. And the Pakistan army encamped almost in all the Thanas and all the subdivisions. So they encompassed the whole country. We were literally were prisoners of war. They this is like a if you read about the
As far
German
as I can say, I can simply put it that the Pakistani military has its country of its own. Pakistan doesn't have a military. Pakistani army has a country. So Pakistan,
well, that is widely
that is simply put.
diplomatically it is said that in the diplomatic arena it is said all the countries in the world has an army.
Right.
Well, in Pakistan, in case of Pakistan, the army has a country.
Right.
So now, see, the problem was, just imagine, I'm talking about Brahmanbaria. That's where I specialize. I lived. If you look at the corridor, Brahmanbaria, the peasants were not allowed to plow their land because they were not allowed to grow jute. They are not allowed to grow, long rising, what do you call, rice,
Right.
because that gives cover.
Okay.
Okay, so other than pouring into India, millions of, and bear in mind, this is very important. There is a religion point of view here as well. To the Pakistanis, to the Pakistani army, they were coming to East Pakistan and they were told you are going to do a jihad
Right.
because all the people who live in East Pakistan, they are all Hindus. Even the Muslims are not proper Musliman. Either you have to fix them or you have to wipe them. And the idea was they would bring the Mahajirs from Karachi who they don't like. They would bring the Mirpuris from Mirpur and Biharis and create a population who would be a very captive population and who would go against the ethos, the cultures, and the aspiration of Pakistan. Now, you see, the misgivings in the history are really painful. Right? If you read all the books, you will find that it is not India who came to us. It is us who went to India.
Right.
Right? Imagine our Prime Minister in exile, Tajuddin and Amirul Islam, they went through Magura and all that, and they poured into India. Major Usman and Tawfiq Elahi and SP Mahabub, them revolting in Chuadanga,
Chodana.
they went to Lodhia. Right? Major Jalil revolting not revolting, he was on leave, but he gathered people
Yeah.
and to fight. He had no choice but to go to opposite Shatkhira and Bagarhat. You were looking at Hingolganj and all that, Boshurhat and all that areas, right?
Right.
Khalid Musharraf revolt. It was not Khalid Musharraf who revolted. The main hero of Brahmanbaria revolt of 4 East Bengal was none other than Major
Shafai
Shafai
Jamil.
Jamil.
Right.
He was the main hero. And Khalid Musharraf joined later. He gave the brain and the command for it to be formed into a different stature of resistance force. So the Khalid Musharraf with four Bengal poured into Teliapara and went inside Melagor and all that, right? So is Zia Rahman. Revolting in Chittagong, he poured through Ramgarh and went all the way to India. So is Captain Rafiq.
Rafiq,
With
Rafiqul Islam.
his APR, he revolted and he also went to Savrum and all this area which is opposite Bangladesh Ramgarh, right? Imagine Major Shafiullah revolting in Jaidapur. He slowly and gradually went across and again went into opposite Brahmanbaria, Teliapara, and all the area.
Right.
Stia Doctor, my father, are the main backbone of resistance in Sylhet. There were four or five people. Sia Doctor, my father, and there is a Mukti Bahini commander. He's an army leader. His name is Commandant Manik Chowdhury. These are the two gentlemen. My father and Commandant Manik Chowdhury went and approached Sia Doctor to come and join the liberation force. The vehicle and ammunition and the arms people were all the APR boys from my father's company. So they also poured into Teliapara, sorry, in Koilash Shahar, set up the first camp in Koilash Shahar. So the whole, I mean, if you look at Captain Nawajesh and his group in Lalmonirhat,
Lalmuni.
they went into the other side. If you look at Captain Gyash and his APR in Rajshahi, they went to Bhagavan Gola and the capital of Bengal, undivided Bengal. What was the seat of Nawab Sirajuddaulah? What's the name that place? So they went, they established their camp. From Nauga, they went on the other side, right? Even Dinajpur, Captain Nazmul and Bulumia and the Rob and from Ponchagor went towards Shiliguri and Dinajpur went towards Birol and all that area. So now imagine if India was not ready to help us, then how could this Mukti Bahini revoltees could go and take shelter in India? It is impossible, right? So if you ignore that fact and if you say that India hasn't helped, then you are living in a fool's paradise. You are blinded. You have been motivated wrongly. You have been brainwashed derogatorily to go and talk against India. You cannot separate the help of India in the very existence of Bangladesh and the very independence of Bangladesh. Simple as that. It was a God. India was perhaps the God-sent Messiah for the Bengali population of East Pakistan.
Right.
Now,
There are
another
many, there
point.
is another comment that I would like you to have a look. Like, um, many people say that India had helped Bangladesh and East, I mean, to especially the people of East Pakistan and Bangladeshis during their bad time, because people say that India wanted to divide Pakistan. Then I had to sort of like talk to them saying that if that was the case, of course we did that fine and we are happy with cutting Pakistan in two, but who came to us first for the help? It was people of East Pakistan. They said that we
Yes,
are in trouble, please help us. And India opened their doors for them, offering every sort of help, not only sheltering refugees but also training the Mukti Bahini.
everything. Look, let me explain this to you. Um,
It was the main, what I can say, a main wish of the Bengalis to take Indian help for liberation.
Not as it was the necessity of the
Necessity.
hour,
Necessity.
right?
Right.
Necessity of the hour. We had no choice. We didn't have any depth to repulse the Pakistan army. We needed a shelter somewhere
Right.
where we need depth to come back and retaliate.
Right.
Now, see, the problem people has selective amnesia. They want to forget intentionally. They don't want to remember. If imagine what would have happened in 1965. There was no defense, there was no protection for East Pakistan by the Pakistan army. The Pakistan army never had a bunker, never had an exist. So India could have easily walked in. Easily. Because what Pakistan probably wanted, this is an important thing people to know. Pakistan wanted Kashmir and Pakistan wanted to capture Kashmir. If Pakistan could have captured Kashmir, then there would have been a big hulla gulla in the United Nations, and Pakistan would have said, "We want Kashmir, you can take East Pakistan." We would have been the bargaining chip for Pakistan to get rid of us. The negotiation would have been, we take Pakistan, we'll take Kashmir, and India, you take East Pakistan, we don't need it. This would have been I have read in various books, this was their ideology, this was their plan, but it didn't happen. Now, you see, the problem that we have is we were brainwashed during the time of Pakistan, right? In school, in class 5, in class 6, when like I was 10 years old, 11 years old, we had to read about Tofail Azam, who fought in Ajampur in opposite Agartala, where the king of Agartala's nephew was captured in 1958 or 57.
Okay.
And there was a major Tofail and there was a Jamadar called Azam who were killed. So their story we had to read down in our book. They were big heroes for Pakistan. They were not our heroes. They're their heroes, not Bengali heroes, right? Then we had to read about Aziz Bhatti, right? He was a hero of 1965 war,
Okay.
right? Then we had to read about group captain or squadron leader Alam.
Hello.
He was a big hero. He went into India with and massacred India. We
Still
had to
there
read.
about him. Still there.
Yeah.
Still
So
though.
we had to read. This was brainwashing. Now imagine from day one, if BSF did not come to assistance
Right.
of East Pakistan Rifles, East Pakistan Police, and East Bengal Regiment, and the political element of the country, the Awami League, the pro-liberation political parties who gave us the leadership. If they were not given shelter in India, how would we have operated? How can you forget this? I mean, this is biggest belief. I mean, BSF, there was there was no official help, but BSF has helped from day one, right?
Right.
Even on the 8th of April, 1971, when Siad Datta, my dad, Subadar B.R. Chowdhury, and Subadar Loshkar from Sunamganj and B.R. Chowdhury from Tamabil, and Second Bengal's one company led by the then Captain Azizul Rahman, who is Biruttam, Major General Aziz. So they recaptured Sylhet, literally. They did an enveloping attack from four corners, and 31 Punjab with two companies were absolutely, put into they were almost, but the attack had to be abandoned because, as far as my father's company was concerned, which was right on the Sylhet Bridge, Keen Bridge, they did not have any ammunition. And C.R. Datta, Colonel C.R. Datta at the time, he was Major C.R. I think he was captain. He was captain. He was captain. He was major, but I think he was demoted to the rank of major, from major to captain because of some promotional exam. But he would have been promoted again as a major shortly, but it didn't happen. But he went to Karimganj to get help from India, gets ammunition from India. Now, this is not an easy thing because Pakistan were using 303 rifle. By then, India was using SLR.
Right.
So the calibers of ammunition were not right. There were 303 ammunitions, but they were probably deep in some in a storage, because already India had the transition of going into 7.6 carbine and SLR rifle. There were different bullets, different size. The chambers
Right.
were different. He came empty-handed. Now that is why the Sylhet capturing Sylhet, they had to abandon because there was no ammunition. They threw their rifle, and my father gave instructions that all of you try to reach Chatlapur BOP. There's a BOP called Chatlapur in
Chatlapur.
Shamshannagar, right? Whereas there is a place called Naumoja, which was very close to the Indian border, and which was literally um, liberated, kept liberated all through the liberation war because uh, that was very close to the Koilashahar Air Base.
Mm-hmm.
And Koilashahar Air Base in 1971, I think, if I'm not wrong, was the Eastern Command of Indian Army, now Eastern Command of Indian Air Force, which now have been
Maybe.
moved to somewhere
But as far as I know, the Fort Kumaun was there for a very long, from a very long time.
No, I mean that's not. I'm talking about Air Force. So the Air Force base in Koilashwar needed to be secure. So now BSF, if you read the books, Golok Mojumdar, who was the Director General of BSF in West Bengal and Assam and Tripura and Meghalaya, and the main Director General of BSF was Rustomji, if you know about it. So without proper knowledge, without proper instruction, right? Mr. Golok Mojumdar has extending all his help, right? Now we read about 4th of April, a meeting happened in Teliapara, right? Now we only say that meeting happened. General Usmani was there, General Captain Colonel Rob was there, Khalid Musharraf was there, Ziaur Rahman was there, Shafiullah was there, Nazmul was there, then Nuruzzaman was there, Major Rafiq was there, and then Usman was there. Now imagine if how does from Nodia Major Usman comes to Teliapara
Teliavar, you have to come all the way around India.
all the way,
Yeah.
whole round, half a round
Kilometers.
India. And there's no aircraft. This is all train.
Right.
Okay, okay. And they didn't have money. So who gave them the ticket? Who gave the? You are not allowed to move in another country if you are not given a pass. You don't have a passport. You don't have a visa. So people seem to forget all of that. So it happened from the thin air, as if. So these were facilitated by India to have that conference, and in that conference there was it was a DIG of BSF who joined from Agartala in that conference. So it was all facilitated by India. Without the Indian help, you cannot take India out of the box.
Right.
India was part of it, right? And that has given the division of sectors. What sector will be from? Who will be the sector commander? General Usmani, Colonel Usmani will be chief, and Major Rob will be the deputy chief. Siyar Datta will be 4th sector. Khalid Musharraf will be 2 sector. 1 sector will be Shafiullah. One sector will be Captain Rafiq, right?
Right.
So all of these divisions were made, literally planned and augmented and rattled out in the conference of Teliapar. Right? Then comes the 17th of April. 17th of April, when Mujibnagar oath of the Bangladeshi government in exile took place, right? Who organized that?
Who
In
organized that?
in
In the pictures,
Uddona.
in that picture, I remember very clearly BSF officials being present.
Yes, if you remember that Captain DP, who is the friend of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman's son in Kamal, Sheikh Kamal, that
Kamal.
gentleman who wrote a book, yeah,
Right.
In his book, he was a captain at the time, and he was giving protection of the cabinet and the oath taking ceremony, right? So if India wasn't helping, that couldn't have taken place.
Yeah.
There are proofs, there are books. I have the book. That gentleman who I asked you to do an interview, he was very poorly, who was in Murti.
Bukot Chaudhary.
Not Chowdhury. Who was a captain and later retired as a brigadier. He wrote a book few years ago, uh, and he went and presented the book to the Prime Minister of Bangladesh, who became a very good friend of Sheikh Kamal whilst he was in Murti undergoing
Brigadier
training.
R.P. Singh.
R.P. Singh, yes,
Yeah.
Brigadier R.P.
I
Singh.
haven't
He
found
was
his
a
name.
captain. Yeah,
He's a
he was
captain.
a captain. Yeah, and he was the one who was in charge of giving protection to the oath taking ceremony that took place in Bodhanath Tola. Okay. Now, this is the military thing, right? Secondly, my brother, who was at that time a matric, means secondary school examination candidate, he was living in Sylhet in a boarding school, preparing for his exam, which was supposed to be held on the first week of April.
Okay.
And my father also was in Sylhet.
Okay.
They after the 25th of March they couldn't meet each other because my brother did not know where my father was, and my father couldn't find in his hostel because he left. The crackdown happened. He thought I will come back to Brahmanbaria. So it took him about he is only 16 years old. It took him a long time to come to Brahmanbaria, and he found we are not there. Then he went to our village, and he found we are not there. So with other friends, he went to India. He
Okay.
had 2 weeks of training, right?
Two
There's
weeks of
a
training.
training, 2 weeks of training. There was a training camp opened in Ompinagar, which is near Bishalgarh in Tripura, and he had 2 weeks of training, and then they were sent inside Bangladesh, right? So who was organizing this? All these Mukti Bahini training camps, and they were youth camp, right? These were not Mukti Bahini camps. These are youth camp. All the youths go there, and then you stay there. There were Awami League and other political leaders who were in charge of the youth camp, and then they were batch by batch they were sent for training. So who was erecting those houses or shelters for the youth camp people to stay in the youth camp? It was India, right? Then Mukti Bahini training. Who were giving the training? Where was the arms? Where was the ammunition? Where was the rifle? Where was this SMG? Where was the SLRs? Was coming from India. Ammunition. There is countless amount of ammunition being fired. We were living in a refugee camp in between. On our south was Shalda Nadi, the biggest place where the maximum battle happened,
Happened.
and one was on the north, about 5 miles away, 6 7 miles away was Akhaura,
Akhaura.
another big battle place. So who was providing the arms and ammunition? And imagine we were living in a Hindu family's house when we poured into India, a village called in between Motinagar and Motinagar in Sylhet, in India, which is very close to Gokul Nagar, in between Meghalaya, in between Agartala and Melagar highway. So first we went into India. The first port of call, it is all there in my book. You will find it very soon. It is we went to the BSF camp, right? And the BSF. This is the first time I saw a man with a long hair, Sikh
Sikh gentleman.
gentleman with big hair. We knew about because My mother and father were born and brought up in Calcutta, so they talk about Punjabis, Sikhs, Gujaratis, and everyone. My mother used to teach us that the Sikhs have five things, Kangan, Kankan, curry, and kripan, and all that.
Right.
So we knew, but we never knew that under his turban he has such a big hair. So it was like an eye opener for us. And they fed us chapati, they fed us dal, and they respected us because my mom served in the East Pakistan, I mean Pakistan land customs. So she has been in various border posts and dealt with BSF before, dealt with Indian customs before. And my father was in East Pakistan Rifle. So my mom gave the identity of my father and her identity, and we were welcomed. And it was really, we were soaked completely, absolutely wet. It was raining, cats and dog, and there was this hailstorm, there was a nor'wester, a cyclone, and we poured in right at the, I mean, it was almost getting dark at the time that we went into the BSF camp. And then they fed us something, food, chapati, roti, and all that we had. And they arranged a resident, a house where a Hindu house, Mr. Das Gupta, their house, one of their room was given to us,
Okay.
right? And we lived there for month. No money. We had a few money. We sold all my mother's gold. We didn't have any bedding. We didn't have any clothing. We slept in the mud floor on a what do you call in Bengali pati, madur.
Right. Right.
No pillow, nothing. It was a 12 by 10 feet room. We five of us were sleeping there. There was no kitchen or nothing. We had to go in the corner, and I had to go to the jungle to cut branches of tree, dry branches, go and cut other trees and bring them home, chop them, dry them so that we can cook our food. This is how we lived. And in about 7, 8 days later, a lot of
I
other
had a
people started.
question, sir. These trees that you are cutting, these
Hmm,
were the property for, I
of
think, they
Indian
must be
people.
property of the Indian people,
Yeah, they
locals.
did not say
They
locals.
didn't
They
say
did
anything.
not know. We used to. I mean, the hunger was so bad. Was to go. I was the only adult. I was only 11 years old, right? I
Okay.
was the only adult at home. So I got a machete to cut. I have never climbed a tree ever in my life. I have never walked barefoot ever in my life, right? And I'm going into a jungle and it rains round the clock. Leeches, snakes, ants, black ants and red ants, bees. You are just, and it's full of wet undergrowth. Basically, it's up to your knee level, the undergrowth, and then the trees. So I had to climb those. I have cried my eyes out because it was literally impossible for me to do this job. I have never done anything like this. I owe a great deal of gratitude to the people of India. I will never be able to pay their help. It is impossible to pay back them. We used to go and we used to steal kathal, jackfruit from the tree, raw jackfruit, right? We used to bring it down, cut it, and right on the right underneath the tree, I used to eat it because it was so hungry. I used to be always 24/7. I was hungry because in in India when we lived 9 months, I never had a proper meal. Never had a proper meal because there was not enough food. Now, only the population of India, I must say this, uh, they were the best human beings that you can find ever. They were so hospitable. They gave us everything. They were very poor as well. They didn't have much, and the lands were all inundated because these are very slopey, muddy areas, and the valleys are full of waterlogged. And there was only one crop, that was the paddy, nothing else. Right? So hardly any fish, hardly any vegetables. It's a very rudimentary life. So we lived in that village for about a couple of weeks, and then within no time, we were the first one to pour into that village. Within no time, hundreds of families arrived. The school had to be shut down. There was a primary school had to be shut down. People were there. People were making chapra. You know what is chapra? You make a makeshift roof right on the roadside, and you live there. It was the old ladies were pulled in shoulder straps and bringing them down, and the children crying. And then within no times we had conjunctivitis. People started to having problem in their eyes.
Yeah.
Everybody was suffering. So but 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, civilian officials came
Okay.
with their trouser and shorts. That is the first time you see someone with trousers and shorts. We haven't seen. It was lungis and dhutis.
Hmm.
And upper body. Everybody didn't have anything in the upper body, but there were officials came, and by this time, like I said, there are about 1,000 people in that village.
1,000.
So they set up 1,000 people. I mean, when we went, there was nobody, and then there was 1,000 people. So we were oh sorry, the officials came. I don't know how they came. I didn't see how they came, but they called us because the Dasgupta Babu had a shop in his house. That was the only grocery shop of the village.
Okay.
So this official came and spoke to him. Official came and spoke to the BSF. Then BSF came and talked with my mom because she looked presentable, educated, speaks Hindi, speaks English, speak Bengali. So she said, "Would you like to come and talk to the officials?" So they said, "We are bringing in some relief for you guys tomorrow, and we will need one of this room in this school. Can you tell people to evacuate that room, and we will store our rations there, and we will distribute rations."
So this relief was from the, I mean, Tripura state government or the central government?
I have no knowledge.
Okay. Okay.
I was too young
Okay.
to understand.
I mean, at least it
Then
comes from
2 days
India.
later,
That is to be sure.
of with material doesn't matter which state or we don't know. I'm not supposed to know. I'm only a young kid. I didn't even understand what is central government and federal government. Now I do, but then I didn't. So 2 days later, there was a truck, and the truck used to come from Agartala to Gokul Nagar. There's a junction. From Gokul Nagar, it's all muddy road. There's no metal road, and it's ditches. You can't walk. You can't do 5 meters walking on that road on a dry place. It's all muddy, and the truck struggling, and huge struggle. That is the first time I saw the different type of trucks where the bodies are so high up. I have never seen that before in my life. So the truck came, and then they asked my mother to help them write the name of the recipients who are receiving the ration. There was some stool and table and chair, and people were all lined up. And that was the most embarrassing thing of my life, that I had to stand in this queue and I had to receive food or rations. There was rice, dal, there was a small bottle where was some shorisha tel, mustard oil,
Cooking oil, right?
cooking oil, and that's it. And that's it. So we had about 3 weeks of ration from there, and that was like the biggest help. And if you had seen the fear in people's eyes and the children's crying, cholera, malaria, all these things, eye conjunctivitis, it was the most horrific experience of my life. Then what happened was,
People were fleeing Pakistani persecution, Pakistani army persecution.
I mean, that road from Brahmanbaria to pour into Tripura, it is not only people of Brahmanbaria. It is people of Kishoreganj, it is people of Noshindi, it is people of Dhaka, it is people of Narayanganj, it is people of Faridpur, if it's people of Manikganj, if it's people of, I mean, the whole of it, basically. If you look at the map and if you make a half circle, whatever areas you have, I mean, you are looking at Kumilla, Brahman, Kumilla, Noakhali, and then, I mean,
Even
these
from
are the big
Chittagong,
districts.
even from Chittagong, I would say.
Chittagong, of course, in our refugee camp later on, we had people from Chittagong. Firdaus Ahmed Qureshi, who was one of the student leaders in the then time, who was there in our refugee camp. He was based in Chittagong at the time. We had Johur Ahmed Chowdhury, who was an MNA or MP from Chittagong. He was the head of Joy Bangla office in Agartala. So now from there we moved into there was a in Shurjomoni Nagar. It is about 3.5 kilometers from Agartala to the road that goes to Savrum, the highway now, present day highway. That is about 3 kilometers from Agartala. There was this place called Shurjomoni Nagar. In Hindi we call it Suryamoni Nagar. So there Indian government set up. This is by this time it is May. April is gone. Believe me or not, the abuses that we have inflicted on the property, on the arable lands, on their orchards, on their bagans like kathal bagan and anaros. Anaros and kathal, they were pineapple and
Pineapple
jackfruit
and
was
jackfruit.
staple fruits of that region. We absolutely smashed them. But the funny thing is, two things, right? The the Tripuri tribe, they never spoke to us. Never. They never smiled back. I used to, I have a big smile. I used to smile at them and I used to be very scared of them. They never smiled. They never said a word. They never welcomed. And we were literally thrown out of their premises every time we infiltrated or we went trespassed, not knowing whose property is this. As soon as we entered, and they threw us back.
Okay.
Even I'll be honest with you, in various occasions, in Bishalgarh, there's a place called Bishalgarh. There was people, a lot of Muslim population were there. They were not happy us pouring into India, right?
I
So
heard of
anyway,
certain incidents happening in Meghalaya where actually a tribe, I mean, didn't like refugees coming in, but somebody from that tribe itself, yeah, she was a lady. Her son became the chief minister of Meghalaya later on. She actually said that no, I will house all these refugees. No tribal people have
okay,
to take care of any of them.
I don't know, maybe,
Yeah,
but they
she was
were they
some.
were they
I
were
mean, her.
they were very reticent.
Yeah,
Hmm. They were not very welcoming. They were
tribal
not at
people
all
at
well.
times, yeah, they were not welcoming.
They were not welcoming. We used to be very scared of them. So then, what happened in May? The Indian government set up a refugee camp uh, with a roof, proper roof, yeah, straw roof, and proper height, like 8 feet, 10 feet high,
Okay,
and then roof and mud floor with one window with the bamboo made windows and bamboo made surroundings, uh, bamboo doors, and they made some one two khatiyas with bamboos
okay,
each room. and this was called Shurjomoni Nagar Special Camp. This is the camp where in August 1971, in whole of Tripura, where President John F. Kennedy's younger brother, Ted Kennedy, Edward Kennedy, Senator Kennedy, came and visited our camp. So in this camp, all the elites, all the government officials, all the leaders, MPs, barristers, solicitors, uh, government officials, army officials, their families were housed. Okay, so
Army
we did
officials,
not.
as if, I mean, East Pakistan Rifles and East Bengal Regiment people.
Yeah, there were a few, not a lot. There were a few like Captain Nawab Ali, very renowned
Freedom
army
fighters.
officer. His family used to live there.
Okay.
But Khalid Musharraf did not have any family. His family was inside Bangladesh. Then others were also, they didn't have families. Many of them got detached from their family. Many of them were single bachelors. So we had, like, the present day law minister of Bangladesh. His father used to have a room in our camp. Then the MP of Narayanganj, but they're quite prominent Army League leaders. I can't remember their name. His father, Samsud Joha, who was a MNA, I think, member of National Assembly or local assembly, I don't know. He was there. Then Ashoma Abdul Rob, he was a very prominent student there.
Student leader.
He used to have a room there. And a lot of people from there's a very philanthropic house, in the Hindu household in Bharateshwari homes in Tangail. So Dr. Bishambar Babu, lot of eminent leaders of Bangladesh used to be in that camp. So we were in that camp till the end of till 16th of December. Now, you see, what we people are forgetting in Bangladesh, right, is they are saying that we had Z Force, we had S Force, we had K Force,
Just
right?
three brigades.
And it's not even brigade. No, listen, in Bangladesh Army during the Liberation War, there was not more than 3,000 armies from Pakistan Army. Okay, the maximum number of trained people were from East Pakistan Rifle. There were about 8,000 of them, right? So imagine, people. There is a school of thought in Bangladesh who is actually dividing Bangladesh and India in the area of religion, right?
Right.
So there is a problem that we need to address. But bear in mind, if you look through the prism of our existence for last millennia, our cultures, our history, our food habits, our customs, our etiquettes, our mannerism, our social practices, everything are identical, right? We cannot separate ourselves, or India cannot separate themselves from Bangladesh, nor Bangladesh can separate itself from India because of the shared history, shared legacy, shared culture, shared practices, right? Everything. So now you can be ultra nationalist, you can be brainwashed by certain group who wants to create a divide. Now imagine, I'm not undermining, East Bengal Regiment has fought very bravely. There is no doubt about it. The freedom fighters are the most bravest soldiers I have ever known. I am a historian, I read a lot of history, but what they have achieved is impossible. But a war is not only fighting,
Right.
right? There is diplomacy, there is alliance, there is people to go and do your talking somewhere. You need to have alliances with people. You need to have support from superpowers. Who would have gone and got the support from Russia? If Russia did not come on board, then America, China, and France and England would have stopped the Security Council's and stopped the liberation, stopped the fight. That people don't understand. When the Seventh Fleet was sent, immediately there is an agreement with UK and America that anywhere America goes to war, UK have to come, right? So they send their fleet. Now, if that fleet was not threatened by Russian fleet, then the surrender would not have taken place, right? Mr. D.P. Dhor insisted to have that agreement with Alexei Kosygin and Brezhnev. I think who was Brezhnev was the American leader, Russian leader, to sign that treaty of friendship, 25 years treaty of friendship with India and Russia. Then this would have been different,
Right.
right? Then imagine the relief and rehabilitation and this housing of these people. If India didn't help, where would we have lived? And I have seen by my own eyes in Shaldanodi, Bangladesh, four right East Bengal regiment and two sector fought for 9 months. They couldn't capture Shaldanodi station, right? In Kamalpur, isn't it? Kamalpur BOP,
Kamalpur
right?
Border Outpost.
State Force Brigade could not
They
capture
failed.
it,
They failed.
right?
They
They
failed.
failed.
Yeah.
They are brave warriors. Major Salahuddin Mumtaz is an epitome of a fighter. I have so much of respect. One of his company commander was my dada. So Khairul Bashar Bir Pratik. He fought with him. So I know how bravely they fought, but it was not possible to dislodge Pakistan army. You have not seen the war preparation of Indian army and Indian Air Force and Indian Navy. We have seen it by our own eyes.
Right.
That road in front of Shurjomoni Nagar camp was the main highway of going towards Chittagong, going towards Kumilla, going towards Noakhali, going towards Ramgarh, going towards Rangamati. That was the main axis. So the war started 3rd of December, 3rd of December. But we have been seeing the preparation from August. The road that in front of our refugee camp, we saw thousands of mules. We saw hundreds of different types of soldiers every day. Some Maratha with big mustache, some with Rajput, some with turbans, some with Gurkhas, some very dark Bengali looking. So there probably was Tamil regiments, we don't even know. But the beauty was they were very friendly. In our refugee camp, about a mile and a half away, there was a artillery position, and I have never seen that much long artillery gun ever in my life. I mean, they were like this wide, the barrel
Just
was,
the barrel.
and they were like 12, 15, 20 feet tall. I have never seen that kind of guns ever in my life. And every day, hundreds and thousands of lorries, jeeps, trucks full of bridging equipment. On top of it, the slabs for bridge, then tanks going on trucks, I don't know what they call. Now I know it's called tank transporters, but in those times we did not know. So they used to stop in there's a bazaar called Sheker Para or Sheker Ghat, just opposite our refugee camp, and they used to have breakfast, lunch, and thousands of soldiers in both sides of the road. They are taking rest, and then again walk. I mean, if you the later on when we started going to Agartala, when there was a newspaper published by India by Bangladeshi people called Joy Bangla
Joy Bangla.
newspaper. Joy Bangla newspaper. It was a tabloid newspaper, 4 pages, one, two, three, four, 2 page folded. And myself, I was chosen by none other than Sheikh Fazlul Haq Moni and my kaka Aziz, and my auntie was an MNA in not MNA, local assembly, selected 10 Awami League MPs, selected lady MPs. One of my auntie was one of the MPs, Mamtaj Begum. You will see in all the books in the Liberation War, everywhere in Agartala sector, in Agartala, all these books and histories are written, and her name is absolutely there in every single book. But it really pains me that the contribution my aunt has put in 1971, she deserved a national that award, for her contribution. And she passed away during the COVID-19. She was one of the tallest women leader in that region in 1971, Mumtaz Begum MNA. So then, when we started distributing those newspapers, we had to go myself, Ronnie. Ronnie is the younger brother of our present law minister in Bangladesh. His younger brother was Ronnie. Ronnie was a good friend of mine, and my another friend, he's also in the army with me, Major Ashish. Ashish's elder brother was Shamor, um, whose father was actually almost assassinated by Pakistan army in Ramna, Kali Mandir in 19.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
I heard
he
that
survived.
killing
He
happened there.
survived. He had bullet injuries, but he survived. And
Okay,
Ramna Kali Mandir was, absolutely smashed, yeah, destroyed by Pakistan. So his brother, Ashish's brother, Shamurda, myself, and Ronnie, we used to distribute newspaper in Agartala town center, where the road from Akhaura Road is a very prominent road in Agartala. That's the main town center, main traffic signal post. And there is another road that goes to the town, in main town, Polo Ground, and there is another place, was the headquarters of the Four Corps,
full board.
India Four Corps, uh, and there was right beside that was a hospital called GB Hospital.
GB Hospital.
So GB Hospital, we had a ward which is called Joy Bangla ward, right? The ward was actually probably 30 bed,
Hmm.
made for 30 beds, but at least 300 Mukti Juddhas, injured Mukti Juddhas were treated in that ward. So we were taken from our refugee camp by MP Mumtaz Begum to distribute the newspaper in Agartala town center, raise awareness among the people that look, we are winning. Bengalis people are not going to be burdened for you. Read this. You see, this place we have captured, that place we have captured. Well, our Mukti Bahini is doing so well. Just to appease keep the Indian population happy of our achievement. That we're not going to be staying for long. And after that, we used to, doing the distribution, once the paper is to finish, we used to go to Joy Bangla ward and help the Indian nurses and Bengali nurses to help the patients. And the Captain Shujat Ali who was also a very prominent freedom fighter. He was also a member of parliament. He was injured with Khalid Musharraf. He was one of the patients at the hospital. And also, there is a valiant freedom fighter, a student freedom fighter. He was probably 17, 18, 19 years old. He has received a gallantry award. His name is Bahar from Kumilla, Bir Pratik. He was one of our patients. So what I'm trying to say is, when we used to walk from Akhaura Road to the hospital, was about mile, 2 miles away from there, and everything we could see was Indian Army tent, thousands of tents. They were camping here to send inside. And the preparation of the Indian army to join Mukti Bahini and liberate us, unless anybody has seen it, it is very difficult for me to. I'm not a painter, I cannot paint. I wish I knew how to paint. I could have painted those pictures. But to see what kind of preparation Indian army took to liberate Bangladesh, if somebody, either he's blind or he's brainwashed, nothing short of it. So, look, it is our shared history. We cannot detach Indian help in 1971. I'm not, I don't have anything to, I don't live in Bangladesh now, I live in United Kingdom. I would, it is very unlikely that I will go back to Bangladesh. I will probably die here because my roots are here now, my children are here and everything is here. Uh, I'm not into Bangladeshi politics as well. I don't. So I have, only thing I can talk about is what I have seen, what I see now, what I hear now. And there is this problem that, I mean, look, who would have trained Mukti Bahini? Who would have given the war, the ammunitions?
Who
And
would have
ammunition
given treatment to the Mukti Yodhas?
treatment to the Mukti Bahini? Who had given the PT shoes for them to wear? Who had given them the helmets to put? Who had given in the slings to put their arms in it? So it's impossible. And if anybody in Bangladesh is trying to create a um, instance where undermining the Indian help for Bangladesh independence in 1971, it
And
is
I think a lot of
it is.
I think a lot of pro-Pakistanis are involved who support Pakistan still now and are living in Bangladesh.
Yeah, of course, that is one. Secondly, I think you see, um, there is a rise of very right-wing nationalism, right?
Right.
Always remember one thing: when you have right-wing nationalism, you have to have someone to hate. Otherwise, you will not be able to rally your troops. You have to create hate mongering, right? If you remember, if you read about the history of Germany, when Hitler came to power, he created a hate of the Jewish people
Right.
by German people, right?
Right.
That helped him achieve his goal. So the same kind of things are happening. I mean, it's not only Bangladesh is a. I mean, imagine the growth of Bangladesh. Imagine where Bangladesh is standing today. Just imagine. You cannot believe the growth of Bangladesh. What we have achieved is unimaginable. Unimaginable. Well, I never thought in
If
my
Bangladesh
wildest.
was still a colony of Pakistan, it would have never happened where they are
No, no,
now.
no. Look at Balochistan. Look at northwestern province. Yeah, nothing happened there. It's
Nothing.
all based in Islamabad, all based in Lahore, all based in Karachi. Also, they're not very sure because it's more Muhajir people. They don't like them.
Yeah.
I mean, they have wiped the what do you call uh,
Baloch people.
in what do you call the Sufism? They have
Sufism.
wiped
Yeah.
it away, right? They have wiped everything away. So, see, the problem, I'm not a Bangladeshi politician. I look at geopolitics, but this is not a healthy uh, agenda to have and to motivate people to have a negative attitude towards our neighboring country, right? We have shared rivers, right? We have, our trading partner is India, biggest trading partner is India, right? We have, w- India provides us the best medical service, right? So, and we also protect in a way India's eastern corridors, right? So we have we have a mutual interest. We have to look through this prism of 1971. Had India not helped us, could we have achieved an independent country? That is the question the people needs to ask them.
I would
People
like to also
needs to.
inform one small thing. It's not a small thing though. At present, despite the hatred towards India from Bangladesh, that has been, you must have seen the boycott and so called boycott anti India movement that has started in Bangladesh. Despite that, our Indian Prime Minister Modi has actually said that we will increase more trade with Bangladesh. Like
No,
to help.
I'm not going into those political things, but this is not trade. This is not about business. This is not about friendship. This is not
Friendship.
about.
Yeah,
No, this is not even friendship. This is about your existence.
right,
You you have come where today is because the help and the assistance and the feelings that India had. Imagine if you have to listen to Indira Gandhi's speeches, Indira Gandhi's interviews with BBC, when the BBC journalist asked her, "Why are you doing helping East Pakistan?" She said, "Why did you help the Jewish people in Germany? Why did you help the other allied forces? Why did you help the rest of the Europe?
right,
Why did you help France?" And the BBC journalist couldn't answer it. You see, people don't understand why it was imperative for India to jump into the war on the 3rd of December. Because in January, 10th of January or something, in the month of January, there is going to be United Nations Security Council's meeting. And in that meeting, they would have triggered ceasefire. Now, if they would have triggered ceasefire, then the firing and killing would have stopped and we would have still remained East Pakistan. So that was the hurry. That is why she had to do this to get us an independent country. Our respect, self respect was restored because we were humiliated by Pakistan. Derogatorily, very Our mothers and sisters were raped. Come on. Our men and youth were butchered, killed, right? Is this not enough to seek help from India, or if India has come to help us and we have come to this existence of having an independent country, how can you detach India from the independence history of Bangladesh? It is impossible. It is simply impossible. Look, if you just imagine the mobilization of Indian army, where would have Mukti Bahini got a air force?
yeah,
How would have they stopped Pakistani ships coming to Chittagong, Mongla, this Indian Navy,
Indian Navy,
right?
right,
Indian Air Force. And imagine the if two corps did not take that responsibility of airlifting and heli dropping people
four
in on
course,
the other side of
four,
Meghna River,
that was
right?
four
Four
course,
corps, sorry, four corps, yeah, four corps. Two was in Dinajpur and Nodia and all that, isn't it? Yeah. So if four corps did not take that risk of dropping people on the other side of the Meghna River, then the march towards Dhaka, towards Noshindi would not have happened. To capture Sylhet, the heli drop, right? If you read Kadir Siddiqui, what they have done when the heli drop took place in Tangai,
Tangai,
right?
right, right.
Right? And if you remember, Second Maratha Regiment, how
First,
they
first Maratha,
crossed the Brahmaputra River at
right,
night in a country port,
right,
right? And then they got this bull carts and everything. I was listening to General Brar, Bulbul Brar.
He was the
He was
commanding
the
officer
CEO,
of first MLI,
commanding officer, and his father was also a rising
right,
commanding officer of two Maratha. Now, then, when in Battle of Sylhet, Chuknagar, which is very close to Horipur. It's about 10 miles away from Sylhet, where my father's, when 4th sector was doing the last battle to enter Sylhet, there were four companies with C.R. Datta. One was commanded by my father, one was commanded by Captain Robb, later on became Major General Robb, who was from the Army Supply Corps. And there was one guy who was Shukur, who was a civilian, and there was another guy is he's also a civilian. Um,
Mahbubur
his
Rao
name is
Sadi.
Amrul Sadi, right? These are the four companies, and my father's company was with C.R. Datta, right? If you read C.R. Datta's book, you will see my father's name in almost every other pages. Though they don't give credit, that's the problem. Bangladesh has a very huge problem of rank and structure. They don't want to give any credit to any lower ranks or juniors. They
Yes,
all
yes, yes.
take the all. That's the problem. But that's Bangladesh. You can't help it. Uh, but my father's company go into at night. They got into Chuknagar. There is a Majar complex. Go into the Pakistani defense, and there three of my father's very right hand men were killed. One is Ghulam Rasul, one is Rafiq, the other guy I can't remember. They were all three. Ghulam Rasul was what do you call nominated to get Bir Shrestha, right? Now in that battle, right, Kilo Force was walking on the right hand side of the road if you come from India, and fourth sector was advancing on the left hand side of the road of
I think
the
it was Eco
Sylhet.
Force. Eco Force.
It was Kilo Force. Kilo Force or
It
Eco
was
Force?
Eco Force. Eco Force.
Eco Force. 97 BSF and 55 Gurkha were
Right,
there.
right, right. Eco
Right?
Force.
So then my father radioed the Gurkha regiments for support, and Gurkhas fought with open kurkis in that battle. And that is how my father's life was saved. He was literally 3 feet away from Ghulam Rasul's, when Habildar Ghulam Rasul was shot, he was 3 feet away, right? And from there he radioed help. And if Gurkhas did not come and help my father's company, I would have been an orphan long before his real death. So that is how we are intertwined in the history of our independence. The Indian Army, Indian Air Force, Indian Navy, and Bangladesh Force, we used to be known as BDF, Bangladesh Forces, right? We worked and we fought hand in glove. That is how the independence. I'll tell you another story. We made independent country. Indian Army lived till April, right?
May, may I
In
stop you?
Bangladesh. Huh?
Though troops have started moving out by March.
Yes, but April 4th or 5th we had the Barakhana,
Yeah.
big party, saying goodbye to the Indian. I went to that party. But do you know, from 16th of December till April, I don't know about other sectors. I don't know about other places. I know Sylhet sector, 4th sector, we used to send one truck and one pickup every week or every 3 days to Masimpur cantonment, which is near Silchar, right? And I used to go in that pickup whilst the 4th sector ration, hashi, meat, chicken, condensed milk, dal, chini, atta used to come for the troops Mukti Bahini.
I mean,
So
from the
these
divisional headquarters, food, I mean, Indian Army's divisional headquarters, food would
yeah,
be given to freedom
are,
fighters.
yes, to Bangladesh, East Bangladesh, Sylhet headquarter, Sylhet sector
Freedom
headquarter,
fighters.
right? Yes, in we call it Bluebird, present day Bluebird School and new medical college was all captured by Mukti Bahinis, right? We used to bring fresh means vegetables and fresh means all the perishable items and the dried ration from Indian Army. People have forgotten. right? We used to have condensed milk. I still remember. I used to have them on its own, without tea. I used to have condensed milk. Now this was the support. This was the camaraderie. This was the friendship. Now, if yes, there are issues, there are problems, there are political problems, there are different political parties, different things can happen, but it is those people. This is again those people who are talking about India are the one who wanted to rule Bangladesh non-democratically for our for the rest of their life. So these are the people who would be talking against India because they have a different agenda. They want to make Bangladesh, I don't know, a rise of a new religion order, rise of a very segregated nationalism, right? Rise of right-wing politics. There will be all society and human rights and freedom of speech. Everything will be gagged. That's what they are asking for, and that is why I'm really worried. What is happening in terms of anti-India? There is behind this slogan of anti-India lies a big game, which could derail the growth and the progression of Bangladesh vis-a-vis progression of the Bengali race. And that is what I'm worried about. It is not India. It is the paddling of anti-Indian slogan is not India. It is to actually segregate Bangladesh. It is to actually isolate Bangladesh from the rest of the world, isolate Bangladesh and its progression. We are now one of the thriving countries when the Western economy, like the richest countries of the world, their GDP growth is negative,
Yeah.
minus, right? Whereas Bangladesh is year on year is growing in excess of 5.6 to 7%, right?
Right.
This this momentum of growth, they want to change the course. They want to make it, I don't know what, uh, North Korea, isolated from the rest of the world in the ego of nationalism, or Afghanistan, you know, or any other separated country, like no touch with the rest of the world. And look, we are so interdependent geographically, politically, linguistically, historically. We are so close to each other. How can you live without it? I mean, if I speak in Bengali, at least 60% words are spoken in Hindi, right?
Right.
50% words are spoken in Sanskrit, Urdu, Portuguese, right? Spanish, French, English. So this is the progression of the world. You cannot progress clandestinely isolated from the rest of the world. You have to live in a society. The world itself is a society. Countries are part of that world society. And you cannot have that mindset of hating someone. This is not the time for hate. No religion, no religious book, nothing in the world would ever teach you to hate anyone. And this hate comes from religion. This hate comes from ideology. This comes from racial hatred. So these are all fomenting and perpetuating into a big problem within Bangladesh and beyond to create a an isolation, a wall of isolation, a mental wall of isolation. And I'm not very optimistic about its where it's gonna end. I'm really worried about it. So yes, any questions? Final.
I think all we can hope is that Bangladesh and the people of Bangladesh, what I can say, find a better way than to stop hating. I mean, at least find a better way to, what I can say, be biased to these voices that are rising in in that country.
Look,
And I hope
look,
they
I'll tell.
learn the actual history of their own independence and
But
what I can say, make better relations with India because that is what they should do.
I mean, before I came onto your show today, I just switched on my phone and I saw the Prime Minister, the Honorable Prime Minister of Bangladesh, is saying that tell all these leaders who are shouting about anti-India and boycott Indian products to go and burn the saris of their wives in their house or something. But that's sad. That's really sad to hear. Uh, Today I'm where I'm standing, and this is the truth. I don't want to gloss over it.
By
Had
the
India
way,
not given up,
about these saris, I would like to say one thing. In Kolkata city, we have this market. It's called New Market. If you go there, most of the customers are Bangladeshis, and most of these Bangladeshi people, their wives' saris, I guess, are brought from that market.
no, that's look. This is part of our culture, right? Now, what I'm saying is, I was last word was that today where I stand, where I am sitting, is because I'm alive and I wasn't killed in 1971, and I would not have been alive had not India given us the shelter. And like me, all the freedom fighters who are now shouting anti-Indian slogans, their descendants are shouting anti-Indian slogans. Their father's life was saved by
By
India. They
India.
shouldn't forget, right? So we can't really have. I mean, this is a bigger thing. A country, a nation cannot have this kind of attitude of hating any human being. You can't do that. And that is my last message to everyone that please raise your hand, shake your hand, extend your hand to shake hand, to have friendship, not segregation, not animosity, not hatred. With that, let's conclude today's session.
Right, sir. And I hope it happens as soon as possible and as what I can say, as much as possible. That is what
Yes.
will also help unify the bond that we always had since 1971 with Bangladesh. Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And we'll meet again for another program.
It's a pleasure to speak to you, Dagu.
It's a
And you are
pleasure.
doing a fantastic job with the War Book 1971 series. Keep progressing it. Bring these histories to light so that people can know, people can understand. You are doing a stellar job, and I wish I had the means to recommend you for an award. You should receive an award from either from Bangladesh or from India to keeping this spirit of 1971 alive. And I am so grateful to see you being a son of a Bangladeshi freedom fighter living in India, now promoting a bondage in between India and Bangladesh on the historical aspect of the independence, the most glorious event of our history in the
It
last
is.
5,000 years, Bengalis.
It is.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.